Hi, everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Shira, and I'm here with Kim, Lee, and Juji. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. Today, we have a very special guest, my fellow speaker, colleague, and all-around amazing human being, Keith Senzer. Keith is a youth empowerment and leadership coach, and his mission is to help teens find their true north and follow it through their words and actions. His hope is to create a more loving, accepting, responsible, and committed adult who have the power to ensure their future success and heal our world. He's also the president of the Sofia Valsamos Foundation, an amazing nonprofit that empowers young people to take a stand against bullying, find support around challenges, and embrace each other's differences. Keith, we are so happy to have you here today.
Oh, glad to be here. Appreciate it.
Welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
So we have a question that we ask each of our guests, and you will be no exception. We want to know, what is the best compliment you have ever received?
So I actually had a teen I was working with that was really struggling with finding her way. Tried college, tried this, tried that, couldn't. And I worked with her about a year. And she finally ended up opening her own business. And, I remember the day she did it, came over, gave me the biggest hug and said, "You changed my life. Like, if it wasn't for you, I never would have been here. I'd still be struggling, figuring out what I'm doing, sitting at home, depressed, smoking, drinking." Like, it was, for me, that was, that was the best compliment I ever got. I mean, it's mostly the parents I deal with. So I thank you for helping my kid. You really help. But when you actually get it from, the person you're working with, it's pretty impactful. So I would have to.
Wow.
And that's a pretty strong statement too. You changed my life. I mean, that's huge.
Saved my life, she said.
Saved. You said
Did I say?
probably,
No,
probably
change. I think he said change.
Yeah, it changed my life. Yeah.
But you probably also saved it.
also saved.
Definitely very possible, for sure.
So Keith, we want to know a little bit more about your journey working with teens and what actually led you there.
Okay. So you got time? So I grew up with I grew up on Long Island. I definitely had ADHD, but we didn't figure it out until literally in my 30s. So I struggled in high school, meeting people, making friends, focusing. I mean, I think I graduated with like a 72 average. I barely got out of high school. And over the years, I wanted to be a child psychologist. That was really what I wanted to do. And my parents are like, "That's a lot of school. You'd have to go to grad school and get your master's. And, you're good with people. Go into the people business." So I went into the hotel business and I did that for a good 12 years. Then I said, okay, I'll buy a catering hall. And I owned 2 catering halls for about 16 years. And my son has ADHD. My daughter has generalized anxiety disorder. My wife is a special ed educator and administrator. So I was a parent member. I sat on the board of I was a parent member in the Plainview Old Bethpage School District. So I sat in a ton of meetings, CSE meetings and CPSE meetings, trying to help parents understand like what they need to help their child. And, as I did that, I started saying, this resonates. Like, I enjoyed that more than I did catering, And so in 2014, I sold my business. I went and got my coaching certification, and I started slowly working towards, building this practice. And, but really my inspiration is my kids, just being able to work with them and watching them grow and understanding what they were going through. And then just my own, I had to really figure out how to self-manage my ADHD. Like, I graduated college with a 3.99, but I could barely get out of high school. So I figured it out. I started figuring it out in college and like how to organize myself. And because of that, just all of a sudden everything started coming back. This is what I should be doing. I need to do, like, I just wasn't feeling, I made money doing catering. It was a good business, but it never resonated. It was just a job. And I just decided I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something more rewarding. And that's why I started doing this.
Is there a specific moment or a pivotal moment when you remember that you started to figure it out?
Yeah. So I actually went back to school. I was going to get my master's in social work at Stony Brook. And as I was there, I was in my 40s, and, everybody else was in their 20s. Right. So the head of the department actually called me in one day. I had taken 2 or 3 classes. I got all A's. And she called me in. I'm like, okay, what does this lady want to talk to me about? And she sat me down and she said, what do you want to do? And I said, I want to work with youth. And she says, well, I know you just came out of a business. Like, she knew my background. She's like, the only way you're going to make any money is running an organization, running a JCC or a non-for-profit and I'm like, well, that's not really what I want to do. I want to work with the actual population. And she said to me, she says, look, this is a good school. It's an expensive school. She's like, I don't know that you should finish this, because if you go get your master's degree, it's not going to make a difference. She's like, you already have your coaching certification. You might want to focus on just what you want to do. Right there, I was like, first I was kind of like annoyed, to be honest. I was like, wow, like, why are you telling me that? But I think after reflection, I'm like, you know what? It's a good point, because the truth is, I wouldn't. If I wanted to work with kids, I would not be able to support my family, knowing what social workers get paid, which is that's another whole conversation you can have. But right then I was like, okay, you know what? I need to figure this out on my own. Like, I know I want to do this. That just kind of solidified it, because it's almost like she tried to steer me away from it. And I said, no, I don't want to run an organization. I ran a business for 15 years. I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something much more, boots on the ground level. And I think that's when I was like, okay, this is what I need to do. And I just got to figure out how to grow it, how to get there, and, how to expand it.
You know what's so funny about that, Keith? So Kim has, like, we all have these little nuggets, like I'm the quote person, and we're always sharing these like memes and quotes and stuff like that with each other. And Kim said something in a previous episode, that rejection is protection, which is basically like, if you're going through something crappy or someone's just like, no, don't do that, or like you're hearing, rejecting kinds of things, just know that maybe somewhere deep down, like, you're actually protecting, you're supposed to move in a different direction. So like, that's such a perfect example of that. I love that story. It's so great.
Go ahead, Juge.
I've been wanting to ask you this since we did get a chance to see some of your YouTube videos and get some background on you. And you were talking about how not only did you have ADHD, but you were also bullied a lot in school. And I don't know if it's a result of ADHD. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that. But like, we use the term being bullied as like kind of a catch-all for a lot of different types of behavior. I mean, I know that I experienced like the mean girls at my school and stuff like that, but that felt like very just a part of like natural, like, adolescence, sort of exploring how to be social and stuff like that. What do you consider to be like bullying, like when it goes from just the normal interaction to like straight up being bullied, like physical abuse and things like that? And like, what were you experiencing specifically that you consider bullying in this case?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. That's a great distinction. So yes, I mean, I don't think, not fitting in or, being awkward and people not wanting to, accept you. I wouldn't consider that bullying. That's more like a mindset thing, right? And like, listen, we all go through it, like learning to build our self-confidence and kind of find our identity and recognizing like who our tribe is. But for me, I had a lot of that, right? Like, I did have friends in school. Like, my best friend is still my best friend. I mean, we've known each other since second grade, so I had friends in high school. It's just, I didn't have big groups, and that's okay. I'm a true believer. And sometimes you have just a couple, that's good. But there were definitely times like in gym class, kids would like, I mean, back in the day it was so different, right? I remember used to line up in rows, right? Sitting there with the gym teacher in the front. And like, I had kids that would run over and smack me in the back of the head and run back to their line, like that kind of thing. I had, like when we were playing ball, like I wasn't a great athlete. I was a really good tennis player, but I wasn't really good at, team sports. So if we were playing basketball, just people knew I was kind of awkward. So, if I got the ball, hard foul, like that kind of stuff. Just, so I definitely got pushed a lot, because I was also really, I know, shocker now, but I used to be really small and skinny. So, that.
Stop it.
It's okay. Sometimes that kind of humor is okay. But I definitely got pushed around a lot like that. It wasn't I remember one year that it happened. I think I was in like 6th or 7th grade. Like I would not sleep the night before when I knew I had gym class the next day because I knew it was going to happen. Like that kind of thing. Um, I do remember that when it stopped, because I think it was like a year or two later, we were in middle school and the same kids were doing it. And remember those tall lockers? They used to be the
Mhm.
small lockers and the tall ones. And I think I just snapped one day, and this kid was pushing me in the locker room, and I literally threw him into one of the tall lockers, and I just shut it and left. So I got in trouble for it.
Weren't they really narrow?
Oh yeah, well we were all like,
All tall and skinny.
yeah, you know what I mean. And so
Wow.
they weren't that narrow, but still, yeah. So like I remember that, and then kind of like after that, it just they stopped. So, but I think in the moment I definitely wasn't in the mindset of, oh, if I fight back or if I stand up to the bully, they'll stop bullying me. I think I'm like, if I have to be authentic, like I just lost it. I was like, I'm done with this, and I pushed this kid and I threw him in there and I shut the door. So, but that didn't last too long. I think somebody came like 30 seconds later, let him out. But it was that's what I remember from like the physical bullying. Um, it's very different, like social media, right? I mean, it's so different now because of cyberbullying. Like we didn't know we being bullied, right? Like I know people spoke behind my back or would talk crap about me, right? But I never really knew, right, what they were saying because there was no access to it. I think that is far more dangerous now with internet and all these different platforms and how kids, do that. I mean, the cyberbullying to me is the worst thing. Like for all the good things social media has, that for me is just horrible because I can only imagine what would have happened, to me if we had that back then. And also, I think the other thing too is, but in a positive way, things have changed. I feel like when I was in school, you were either a jock or you were kind of nerdy. Like those were the two groups. I wasn't either. Like I wasn't a jock, but I wasn't like I did some kind of nerdy stuff, right? Like I played Dungeons and Dragons, did all the stuff, right? But I also played tennis, and so I was kind of in the middle. That I think that was the worst place to be. Like I would have almost been better off just kind of being, full on nerd. Right? I hate using labels, but just for sake of the story, because at least I would have had that group that I would have like completely fit in, and I would have had some. I feel like my posse, right? Like that were backing me. I didn't really have that. I was kind of like I wavered in the middle, so I was kind of like that. Like anybody that knew me would be like, yeah, he's a nice guy, but he's like really quiet. Like nobody really knew me. I didn't really have a tribe, and I think that had a lot to do with my like I to this day I'm like, yeah, I didn't love my high school. I didn't love my like I didn't have a great experience in middle school and high school. Things changed for me when I went to college, and I think that's why. And in hindsight, I know a lot of it was my mindset and me making excuses for those things, right? But when you're 12, 13, 16, 17, what do we know? Which is why what I do now, if I can get these kids to understand the stuff at that age, it just changes the whole dynamic for them. And I do believe changes just there's a way to make the world a better place when all of these kids are learning, these teens are learning at a young age to just be kind to each other and accept each other and understand the importance of, being together as opposed to, being being polarized on things.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
I know it's a long answer. I'm sorry.
That was
That's
great.
okay. There's
No,
no,
sorry, no
there's
apologies here.
no time limit on answers. Keith, I have a question for you. It's a little bit of a different topic. I mean, same topic, but I'm going to veer off into, we know that a lot of the way that children and teens are today starts in the home, right, with their parents. But I'd love to get your thoughts on this because, I mean, I have a 19-year-old, and growing up, and while he was in his teens, I have a lot of friends, and I know I was guilty of this at some points. As parents, obviously, we want to protect our kids. And in doing that, or wanting to have our kids so protected, I feel that a lot of parents out there enable their kids, right? They may be misbehaving or doing things that they shouldn't be or whatever. And literally, I know some parents who literally are still like holding their hands even through college. They'll make the phone calls. They'll make they'll figure everything out for them. How do you think this would A, impact them as adults, and B, what would you tell parents about this?
Sure, that's a great question. So definitely the impact is like one of my biggest client bases are college freshmen. And one of the reasons is, these are kids leaving home for the first time. They're going to be independent and they get to college. And we all know, right? College is not high school. They don't spoon feed things to you. You have to learn differently, right? There's some kind of adversity. There's some kind of failure they're going to experience their freshman year. It's just part of growing up. But those kids who were kind of coddled and enabled, and I don't want to use the term too loosely, but let's just say entitled in some cases, they get to college. That failure, like they don't know what to do. They're completely paralyzed, and that's where I think the danger is. So there's no benefit in enabling your kids. Look, I love my kids. I worry about my kids. Have I been guilty of that sometimes? Absolutely. I think we all have as parents, but I think it's really important for us to be conscious, because if you're going to be one of those snowplow parents or one of those helicopter parents, like you're not serving your kid. Your kids have to fail. They have to fail. Like nobody grows without failure, right? And that's even as adults, right? Even in the business world, right? Or whatever job we're in, like, we're going to do things that don't always work out exactly the way we want, but there's a lesson there. So there's a lesson in every failure. Like to me, I believe in like, you should try to fail. Like try to fail, because that's how you're going to learn how to grow. So I think for parents, the thing I will always tell parents is, look, like you have to trust your kid, right? Like I get it. We're not talking about a child who's got a drinking issue and who's smoking a lot of weed and into drug, right? But, a kid who's just a really good student or even struggles, right? But just goes to school every day, does their thing. You have to let them fail. You have to let them, if your kid's not studying, right? I work with a lot of kids on executive functioning. I give them skills. I give them strategies. Sometimes they don't listen. And I'll tell the parent, listen, if they don't do it, let them fail. Like they're not going to feel good about it. They're not going to feel good about if you stay on top of them every 5 minutes, study for this, did you study for that? They're actually going to stop studying. They're going to get so frustrated that they're going to shut you down, and you're actually going to make the problem worse. They don't study, they fail. No kid wants to feel that way. No kid wants to fail, So I think part of it is you got to trust your child. And you just got to trust the process. You got to trust the environment they're in. You have to trust the teachers. You have to trust the process. The other thing too is, and this goes back to mental health, I think it's really important too for parents to share their frustrations or their anxieties, right? Like my kids, I'll tell you this. I mean, my wife struggles with anxiety a little bit, right? And sometimes she gets into that mode where she wants to protect and I always say, don't do that, but let them know how you feel, So like when my son's like, I'm going to go do this, and we're like, oh God, no, don't do that. I'll say to him, listen, I'm only sharing you that I'm anxious. Like the reason why I'm on you about this is because I'm anxious about it. I will back off. You just need to tell me like your thoughts or your plan. Like I need to understand why you're doing this or what your thoughts are around this and what your plan is if it doesn't work out. Because if I know that, I'm okay. Like I will let my kids know I'm anxious about something or I'm concerned. Like I'm worried. This is why I'm worried. So I talk to my kids, and that's the best advice for parents. You talk to your kids, not at them. When you talk at your kids, they will shut you down. They do not want to hear it. They're trying to find their independence. They're trying to grow and move away. And when you talk at them, it just pisses them off, honestly. When you talk to them, you can have a conversation. And I think to me, like the one parent advice, talk to your kids, right? Not at your kids. And be vulnerable and be willing to share like your concerns. Listen, I haven't seen you studying. It makes me worried. I just need to let you know I'm going to leave you alone. But like, I just want you to know why I'm worried. I'm worried that if you don't do this, this may affect you getting into college, or this may affect that, or this may affect that. If you want me to back off, I'm going to back off. But I just need you to understand my concerns and why I used to be on you about this. I'm willing to make a change there, but you need to understand how I feel. And then it's up to that kid to do what they want. And I know that's really hard. Like a lot of parents listening to this will probably be like, are you crazy? Like, don't do that, my kid. But the truth is, it never makes a difference. My parents are on me all the time. Granted, they didn't know that I had ADHD. So that was the issue. It wasn't me, but constantly, why can't you do this? Why aren't you doing this? You didn't study, blah, blah, blah. It didn't make a difference. I didn't do it.
Uh-huh.
But
And
look,
I feel like,
turned
yeah,
out okay. So, talking to your kids, not at them, and definitely letting them fail. Like, don't be afraid to let them fail, because if you protect them and you do not let them fail, when they do fail, they are going to be devastated. They're not going to have any idea how to deal with it and to recover from it. And that will just send them to, like, now you're going to be dealing with a kid who's struggling with anxiety and stress and mental health.
yeah. And I think it's really important that parents recognize that the letting them fail is a good thing, and be ready for it, be prepared, because otherwise there's all this control that we want. We want to control the situation, no
Yeah.
room for failure, and I think that's our initial go-to.
And I think your kids will respect, like, when you let your kids fail, look, as long as you're there to pick them up and give them a hug, tell them I love you, and you know what, look, it's okay. Don't give up. You know what, you did this happened. Figure out how to do this again so you don't fail next time. Like, what did you learn from this? What was the lesson? What are you going to do differently next time so you don't end up here? Like, that's the conversation, and just be there for them. But let them, as painful as it is to watch them fail, like, I'm sure you've all been there, right? Like, your kid makes a choice and you let them do it and you're like, oh my God, they're walking into the frying pan. Like, I know this is
Right.
like a terrible idea, right? But the truth is, I can't tell you how many times I've done that, especially my son. And he'll come back to me afterwards and be like, you were right. I'm like, I don't want to be right. I just want you to see the consequence of some of your choices. And if you figured out why these are bad choices and you make better choices, I'm all good with this having taken place. I said, just don't keep making the same choices over and over and not learning from the failure. That's when it becomes, and that's when parents do need to get involved.
Yeah, this is such an interesting conversation, because at the end of the day, it has to do with self-esteem and trusting yourself, right? So if we want our children to trust themselves, we're not doing it by doing for them, giving them a heads up all the time, warning, worry, all that. Like, because then our kids, like, they're like sponges. They like they attach the parents, anxiety and worry to their own view of the world. I don't think parents realize, I certainly am a victim of this too. Like, we don't realize exactly how much influence and impact we have on our kids. So I love what you're saying. I think it's such a practice. So you're right. For any parent listening here, they'd be like, really? Like, all of a sudden I'm going to change my behavior? No, it's like one step at a time. But another question I had for you, Keith, is how has all this work that you've been doing impacted you as a person on the planet? Like, how have you been influenced and impacted by the work that you're doing?
Yeah, I got to think about that. I mean, well, for one, I love what I do. Like, this is the happiest I've been in my entire life, right? Like, all the years of working, whatever, like, I'm in a place now, and you know what? I made a lot of money when I had the catering hall. I don't make what I made, but like, I'm okay with that. Like, it's really okay. Like, I get up every morning and I know I'm helping people and I know I'm making a difference. So that right there. But I also think what I love is I feel like I'm slowly building, like, all these, when I do these group workshops or when I do these individual coaching, I feel like one of the big things I'm a proponent of is whatever I'm teaching or whatever I'm trying to work with them on, that they're going to take this and kind of pay it forward, like, use these skills and have conversation with your friends that struggle with this. Like, the way I'm telling you to handle these things, your friends that struggle with this, teach them that as well. So I feel like, it's that ripple effect, right? Like, if I could just get every kid that I can impact, I feel those kids can impact other teens. And I think that is really, like, the importance of the work that I'm doing. So for me, like, I'm very fulfilled. Like, I never go, I go to bed at night. I'm like, I know I did good work that day. Like, I know I made a difference for people. And listen, some kids are tougher than others. Am I always successful with every kid I work with? No, some are a struggle, right? But it doesn't matter. Like, I'm out there and I'm doing something that's so dear to my heart. And so I feel so important, because just the world we live in right now is so messed up. And
I just have to say one thing, Keith, because you and I have known each other for, I don't even remember when we met, but I literally get verklempt a little bit right now because we've been through so much together, so much together. And to see you in this place doing this, because we've been talking about this for such a long time, and you are absolutely like the epitome of don't give up, listen to your heart. 'Cause it's been so hard. And like you said, it's not like you're struggle free. But when I think about when we first met to what you're doing now, just literally my heart just like wants to burst.
Ah, thank you. Yeah, it's true. We need this generation to be better than ours. You know, we need them to be kinder. We need them to be more empathetic, and we need them to just, and truthfully, we need them to speak about their mental health, like not be afraid. You know, that there's a stigma around that. And I think that when teens open up and share how like all these athletes that are coming out, these teenage athletes, you know, like Simone Biles and Naomi Osaka, like when they came out and like literally gave up on their dreams to take care of their mental health, like the permission that they just gave all these other teenagers that follow them or, you know, respect them, they just gave them all permission to be able to share their struggle. And I think that is so important, because when teens talk about their mental health and they share their struggles, they actually help each other heal, you know, and they get the help that they need. And I think for many years, there's always been a stigma around mental health, you know, especially with teenagers. So I think that is one positive change that we're seeing. And I so much respect for all those athletes and all those just actors, actresses, all those famous people that have given up something that means something to them because they chose to take care of their mental health. I think that sends such an incredibly powerful message. And I like talk about parents. Like I hope parents share those messages and really drive those points home with your teens, because that is key. When they can, any teen that talks about how they feel just gave permission to anybody in their little circle to do the same thing, and that leads to so much more open discussion and healing for people.
Oh, I just love that. Well, I think this is a really great place to wrap up the part one of our conversation. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you like our videos, please subscribe to our channel and be sure to let us know if you have any topic requests or questions by commenting below. We'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching and stay safe, everyone.